fireman's helmet coral bean. It's actually one that stopped me in traffic. I have to admit, I was short of an accident when I saw this plant trying to turn around and find this. I found it at the Barton Springs Nursery South. So I hadn't seen it before, and it was probably been about 8 years ago, the first time that I'd seen it in it's all of its glory. It's an extraordinary plant. It can be a tree further south from here, but here it's deciduous. It'll get about maybe 7 or 8 feet tall, about 6 feet, 8 to 8 feet wide. But you see the blooms on this. They're nearly 2 feet long. It is an enormous hummingbird attractor, and it's just spectacular. It does this all season long until the frost. It's just a spectacular plant. And I love using it in the landscape because it's a great specimen plant. I actually started about 20 years ago, and my mission was to find every beautiful native plant we had. When I moved here, I'm originally from Chicago, and I moved to Austin 28 years ago. I was traumatized, felt like I'd moved to another planet. You know, I came from this beautiful, dark, fertile soil, and now everything was, you know, gray and cactus. And so I made it my personal mission to get one of every beautiful plant in my yard, and we accomplished it. It was a lot of fun, and then I turned that into a career. And so I think that there are so many beautiful plants that are indigenous to this area that you really can have a spectacular landscape and not have to, you know, concern yourself with so much with the plant selection. There's a lot to choose from. Austin, Texas is a challenge in landscaping. The stone, you know, our lack of soil. I don't even want to call it soil, it's dirt. We have clay, we have rock, we have severe drought, and then torrential rains. And so, you know, the builders requiring 2 trees are 10 feet away from each other, and that we have this absurd amount of sod. Those are all huge concerns for a landscape designer because we have a lot of parameters. So I would say that those are my largest obstacles. It's just the environment itself. We have a lot of this really stately real estate, and so people think that they need to have this really manicured looking yard. That plays into these big elaborate lawns, and that plays into this ridiculous amount of maintenance with the trimmed shrubs, and there's some real water wasteroos. And so I think that in that same vein, we need to change our thinking about what that landscape should look like and can look like based on, again, a little more of an organic landscape. Something, again, that is water mindful, something that is less maintenance. If you're using the right size plants, they don't need to be hedged. Sides, maternal and paternal, were big gardeners, and their parents were big gardeners. They were second generation from other countries. My grandparents on one side were full-blooded Italian, the others were from Austria, and they didn't have what they wanted to grow here, or to eat here, so they grew it. And so that's time that I spent, I was probably 2 and 3, you know, around that age. And then as I grew, and my grandfather very meticulously would go through his vegetable bed and choose just the most beautiful things, and I would taste everything as we went through the space. And it was the therapy for me then, even as a child, has carried through the years. And when I'm not okay in my mind and I'm not comfortable with people, or the news is too much, that's where I go. And so it's really exciting for me to create these spaces for people so they can have that same luxury, because it is. We've gotten very far from nature, and I enjoy that I have that privilege to create that for people. My philosophy is that your garden should work for you and not the other way around. I think that it's really important that you have a space that is about you. I have a lot of clients that they have this grand idea of what they'd like to see in their space, and yet it's not realistic at all. I think your garden should be an extension of your living area, and so it should be comfortable and it should be inviting, and yet it needs to be maintenance prohibitive in that you're not spending your life out there. You want it to really work well in both where you live and obviously for you. And so native and adaptive, low water, low maintenance, that's pretty much my philosophy. And I was raised by artists. My father and my mother, they're both amazing artists. I have a great wealth of artist information and culture around me growing up. And so this was my take on it. Much like I dabbled in a lot of other things, but this is where I felt most at home and most comfortable and the most creative. And there's something about working with nature that it's very empowering. To me, it's very spiritual. I feel very connected to the earth, and it rejuvenates me. It's kind of self-centered, really. It's as good for me as it is for the people around me, so it's really exciting. I'm really excited about the green movement. I know that that's overkill. I know that everybody's saying it, but I love using what somebody else might think is junk. I like to use things from a yard sale or some abstract form of architecture that someone may not have thought of. As you can see, I love stone. I'm a huge rockaholic. Other girls like Jules, I'm a big, rock person. So I like integrating things that maybe someone hadn't thought about using in their space. And water features, just a lot of natural things, but again, the recycling opportunities of some of the iron pieces or furniture that you maybe hadn't used in that particular way. I find that to be a lot of fun. Where I'd like to see from here would be that we would have more sustainable gardening. I'd like to see a movement where not just people residentially but commercially would have some type of a sustainable garden, in that instead of having a rooftop, that they would have a rooftop garden where they would have rain barrels that or some type of water catchment system that would collect that water and take care of the beds. And I think that conveys beautifully to residential gardening. I think that we would be able to set up some type of a edible garden, again, the fruit trees in place of shade trees, and a rain catchment system that has drip lines that goes off and waters those beds. So it's fully self-contained and about as low maintenance as you could find, and of course then sustenance for the user as well. I think that would be a great opportunity.